Committee will be in order, and I want to thank everyone for being here this evening, called at this later hour. Tonight, this committee will consider H.R. 2642, the Federal Agricultural Reform and Risk Management Act. This legislation is exactly the same language, including all of the amendments that were adopted on the floor that the House considered last, and save two exceptions, all except two: SNAP and a repeal of the 1949 milk law. Like the previous version, the legislation before us tonight contains important market-based reforms of our nation's agricultural programs, still designed to provide our farmers and ranchers with the tools they need to be successful. The only differences between this version and the one considered last is that the bill before us this evening repeals the backstop of the 1949 law and does not contain the nutritional programs which were previously included. I want to be clear, removing these provisions from this legislation in no way seeks to marginalize the importance of the nutrition programs, nor do they serve as an effort to avoid their reauthorization. After listening to much debate and listening to the thoughts of many members, the decision was made that this nation's federal agriculture policy and nutrition programs should not be considered jointly, but rather as two individual pieces of legislation. I want to thank for their continued confidence in us moving where we are here tonight. Two very dear friends of each other and also of this committee, the young chairman of the Agriculture Committee, the gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Lucas, and the ranking member, the gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Peterson. I must notify this committee that ranking member Peterson was unable to be here tonight, and he wanted me to express to you that he is sorry he had a previous commitment and could not make my invitation, and I would hope that the members of this committee would recognize that he wishes he could be here and cannot. But with that said, I do welcome and want to thank the chairman of the committee for taking time to be here this evening in his continued push that I do consider to be with his dear friend, the ranking member of the committee. And at this time, I would yield to the gentlewoman from New York for any comments she may wish to have at this time. The gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Lucas, I know you've had a hard time, and this will probably be a big relief for you to get this bill. But let me speak just for myself, although I think my colleagues would certainly support what I'm saying. This is simply no way to do this bill. We've been asked now to take everybody's word for it that you're going to get around to nutrition sometime. And frankly, that trust hadn't been earned on our side. We don't know that you will or not. I know it's conferenceable, it's in scope, so if you get to go to conference, we can probably do something about it, or at least that's what we hope you'll do. But a bill this magnitude, a 5-year reauthorization of the Ag Bill, and all that it entails for us to come up with this in this afternoon and just not really have a chance to look at it and once again just say, trust us. I wish I could, but I don't think I've had enough evidence to convict you on that charge. So I want to make it clear that I really object to the idea of coming up here at 9 o'clock at night after we've horsed around here all week on a bill that will never go to the Senate. I took all that time when we could have done this, if the Senate had already passed, and we could have really done something and relieved the minds of an awful lot of people in America. But the hunger circumstances in the United States are dire. And we're bringing up a generation of children who are not adequately fed. And that's something even in the days of Depression that we didn't allow to happen. I know we're going to be taking care of all the big ag business here tonight, but we're really leaving out a good part of the population that has nobody else but us. We're the only people who are going to speak for them and try to work for them. And I know you feel that way as well. But I just have to make it very clear that despite my respect for you as a chair, and I understand what you've been through, that I think this process is perfectly dreadful. And ask us on our side to just literally take your word for it we just can't do it. As I said, we simply have not had any experience that would be a wise move on our part. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I thank the gentlewoman for her openness. I would like to, in defense of the young chairman, suggest to this committee that, in fact, the gentlewoman, Mrs. Fox, and I sit within Republican leadership and have been privy to a large number of items of discussion, a review of the best way to move forward, mirroring our desire for our membership and the membership of the entire House to be able to be heard on this issue. In defense of the gentleman, and I think you gave him outstanding credit, and I'd like to say on a bipartisan basis to Mr. Peterson, because I've spoken with him also, that both of these gentlemen have repeatedly maintained a position of professional consciousness related to moving this bill forward. And at no time, I would yield to the gentleman.
That because Mr. Patterson's married a wet hen. I talked to him yesterday about it. He thinks he's been messed around. The first place, he was blamed for the fact that they couldn't pass the first one, and it's not his fault. And he's pretty upset, and I don't think he's going to vote for this bill himself. At least that's the impression that I personally have gotten from him. Thank you.
I appreciate the gentlewoman, and in fact, this type of dialogue between members has been present with us and present in the discussion that Mrs. Fox and I have had within leadership. And I simply want to say this, that the entire period of time, up to and including until the minute he walked in, I believe Ranking Member Peterson and our chairman have worked in the best interest of not only their committee but this body, and I really want to say that I'm proud of what they have done.
Mr. Peterson did that, I think, worked in good faith, and then when that bill went down, through no fault of his, he took all the blame for losing that bill. And I know he's not happy about it, and I think he'd be up here tonight if he was going to support this. I don't expect to see that at all unless he's walking in the door as we speak, and no, he isn't. So
pretty close. We got a guy from Georgia.
On that.
Yeah. Minnesota and Georgia. But with great anticipation, one could say, I think, that both these men have done a very great job, and this committee, in the recognition of the life of this bill, I think holds both of them in high regard, and I know you do. At least Mr. Peterson, I'd like to, on my side, then say I do have confidence in the chairman in his willingness to not only continue to work, but to push for what he believes can be a bill that comes back from conference that he would be proud of for this body to support also, not knowing the outcome. So I appreciate the comment. The gentleman, without objection, anything you have in writing will be entered into the record. We're delighted that you're here, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for taking time at my invitation for you to join us tonight. The gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ranking Member. And this has been a challenging process that Mr. Peterson and I have worked through. We began the effort to craft the next farm bill while Colin was still chairman of the committee and I was the ranking member. We held hearings across the country. We held hearings in committee. We took input from every conceivable direction and source. We began diligently to educate our members, to build a consensus, to prepare ultimately to bring this very important, comprehensive bill to the floor of the House of Representatives. I think in both our markup a year ago and our markup not that many weeks ago in committee, we achieved consensus. A majority, not all, but a majority of both Democrats and Republicans voted for the bill and voted to recommend it go to the floor. In the time from there until consideration on the floor, of course, it's no longer the committee's product, it's the product of the House. It's subject to the amendments and the rules and structure that this good committee and the United States House puts forth, and the decisions of the representatives on the floor. The final product did not, on that occasion, at that moment, with the amendments that had been included, pass the muster of a majority of my colleagues. I must say, in all respect, Colin was and is a great help in this process, but the bottom line is, when you're the chairman, when you're a member of the majority, when it's your bill on the floor, when it's your request to your colleagues, it's your chin that gets bopped when you go down. And I stood there and looked all of you in good faith, explained where we were coming from, and I took that bop on the chin. That's my job. And I cannot criticize my ranking member. That's my job. Now, that said, Colin and I think, understand that we have a responsibility to fulfill our assignment of enacting comprehensive agricultural and nutrition policy. Now, we've been on a roller coaster in the days since that floor vote, and it's taken some twists and turns. I would simply suggest, from my perspective to the committee, that I view this first of inevitably 2 bills that will be brought before this committee as the best possible alternative we have to crafting comprehensive policy. I respect the opinions and the issues and the concerns of all of my colleagues, but ultimately, working with all 434 of you, I've got to achieve a majority consensus. And as was demonstrated a couple of weeks ago, that's a very difficult thing. My request for you to provide a rule and allow H.R. 2642 to go to the floor, what some folks back home will say is a farm bill, simply reflects that rationale. Maybe the old dynamic of how we've done things since 1965 is not valid anymore. Maybe it's time to try something different. That reflects this effort. But I would say to you, as noted by the chairman, the bill before you, with the exception of the absence of the nutrition title and the change in the status of permanent law, is the document that was amended and considered on the floor in good faith. I would hope that, given an opportunity, the body would move it forward at some opportune moment in the near future. But I will give my word to the committee, and I stand by my word, and I cannot pledge anybody else. We on the committee will make a good faith effort as quick as we possibly can to craft a nutrition title. It may not make everybody happy on either side of the room, but we will try. We want to fulfill our obligations. But once again, it will be up to the subject and the decision of the members of the committee as a whole. And if we are successful, through the guidance of the Rules Committee, the opinion of the floor of the House as a whole. But whatever happens, we need to pass a vehicle to get to conference with the Senate so we can ultimately put the final product together. I'm just asking for an opportunity to finish my work. I ask it respectfully of all of you. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back the balance of my time.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. In fact, the committee does believe that we are here to do as you've suggested and to be helpful. I think that the members of this committee spent a good deal of time, as you'll recall, when we went through the amendment process, trying to gather together good facts and to make a bill possible within the right of passage available to the members as they would decide to vote. And we appreciate you being here tonight. Gentlewoman, the Vice Chairman of the committee is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I expressed to the Chairman of the Agriculture Committee earlier that I was very pleased to see him here, and I will reiterate that. I think it's going to be good for us to get this bill passed, and I appreciate all the hard work that he has put into it. And I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gentlewoman yields back time. Gentlewoman, Ms. Slaughter is recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Lucas, I'm glad to see you, too. I know you've had a hard go here, but it's almost an earthquake to separate nutrition from the agriculture bill. It is a part of what we do in agriculture, feed people. And I need to ask you, what happens if you're not able to rescue the nutrition? What's Part B going to be here? We surely are not going to let people starve.
Lady Yield, I would say to the ranking member, I see potentially 2 options here. If we are only able to pass the Farm Bill portion of the Farm Bill, the Senate still has a Title IV in their document. That would provide an opportunity, if they chose to present it, to conference. But remember, as I understand it, it would be their language. They would have to offer that language. So it would be subject to the consideration of the committee. I would also note that as my understanding of the way the programs are structured, SNAP's appropriated entitlement status means that SNAP would be funded even though the program's authorization potentially would expire at the end of the year, in the worst-case scenario. And this occurred last year when the Farm Bill was not reauthorized, but SNAP benefits were fully funded through the CR passed by the House. Not a single family did without. I, in good faith, believe in the way the SNAP program is put together, those needs will be met. There may be even some who argue that by not having a bill, there will be no reforms, and from their perspective, that might be the ultimate goal. I can't answer that. I just pledge to you the committee will do everything within its power, working with some of the members who sit here today, to craft a SNAP bill and to bring it as promptly and as expeditiously to the floor as the body will allow us.
So if you're going to take the Senate portion of SNAP, which would not include the further $20 billion in cuts made by the House, is that correct?
If the gentlelady would yield, actually the circumstances, I understand it, would be the Senate would have to offer. So the question becomes, would the Senate view no SNAP change as the best policy and therefore not offer? I cannot predict what the United States Senate will do in a conference.
I bet you they offer it. But now let's say that it passes your conference and you bring it back here and it fails because that's in there. Do you have any contingency plan for that? For the people who don't want to have the nutrition part of the bill?
If the ranking lady would yield, I would simply say from this vantage point at this time, I really can predict no farther than whatever the actions of this committee is and the time I would be allowed on the floor. When it comes to the United States Senate, I think there are a number of, or the process after the floor, I think there are a number of options, all of which potentially meet the needs of SNAP recipients. I'm confident of that. But just as I cannot predict everything being perfect, nor can I predict the worst scenario either.
But they would be, the 20 billion cuts would be removed.
If
because you would have to take, only the Senate put it in their bill, so we have to take the Senate.
As the gentlelady would yield, the Senate only cuts $4.5 billion. And if the Senate didn't proper an offer, I guess we wouldn't cut any, would we?
Well, what I'm more afraid of is that there won't be any. That's my concern.
I can only speculate, having been a member of the body for a year or two and participated on the committee for that long. I would suspect that the appropriators, based on their past history, the appropriators perhaps in both bodies, would be very focused on making sure that the SNAP issues were addressed, if it was only on a year-by-year basis.
That's fine, but I have to tell you that I think for most of us and an awful lot of people in the country, what we've been through in this last year, continually voting to kill health care, not getting anything done, doing one-house bills and feeling so smug about it, I don't have that kind of faith. That's what I was saying to you in the first place. I agree with you. There was a time back here when that agricultural bill went through the Congress like a hot knife through butter because of its great importance. This is the first time in memory since I've been here that we've had this kind of trouble with this. I'm sure I have never been part of a Congress or anything to do with it where they even contemplated doing away with the nutrition program for people who need it in this country. So there's not much we can do over here except vote no. We understand that. We understand that. But we want you to know that we really want you to make sure that if that can come up for conference, and we'll certainly do what we can to make sure it does, that will be a possibility. Because I know, and you do too, if there was by some awful circumstance where nutrition programs had to come up and stand on their own, they'd never pass.
Would the gentlelady yield? As I mentioned earlier, all I can do is give my word to the committee that I will try my very best.
And you have, and I appreciate it.
But as I discovered 2 weeks ago, I am subject to the will of the majority of the House on any given vote.
We're in that boat with you, Mr. Lucas. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.
Gentleman yields time. Gentleman from Utah is recognized. Gentleman yields time. Gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank the Chairman Lucas for being here. And look at it, as someone who sits on the Agriculture Committee, I want to say that the process that he insisted on in the Agriculture Committee was a fair and open process. It didn't result it didn't result with what I had hoped would happen, but people were allowed to express their points of view. They were allowed to offer amendments. Nobody was cut off, and there was complete transparency. I had strong objections over the results in the nutrition title. I think that the cuts were too harsh. I still do. And I made it very clear in that committee I couldn't vote for a bill that would throw 2 million people off a SNAP. Now, having said that, I am, we're coming before, the chairman's coming before the Rules Committee today, I assume asking for a close rule on this bill. We're told that Title IV is going to be taken out of the equation, but that we're going to consider what was agreed upon by the House when the bill was voted down, with the addition of that there'll be a change in the statute regarding in regards to permanent law. Mm-hmm. And I guess my question to you is, why are we doing that, and what is it supposed to achieve?
Of course, the gentleman would yield. The gentleman, of course, serves on the committee, understands the principle of permanent law, but for some of our other friends here, permanent law, the Farm Bill is unique in many ways in that since 1949, farm bills have been temporary documents that have temporarily replaced the 1949 law. In 1949, of course, President Truman was the president. The program was based on allotments and quotas and parity and production history, things that are just untenable in the modern world. It was the view of myself in making this suggestion and request to the Rules Committee that we need to modernize law, and that whatever version of the Farm Bill we ultimately come together with, and it will be a bipartisan affair or it will never get to the President's desk, that it reflect how the world has moved since Harry Truman was President. If we're crafting Farm Bill for this century, then that should be the base law. And that was my request. The one issue that I requested was that if we're going to do this, let's step into the modern age with our policy.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, but we don't need to do this in order to be able to modernize, our farm laws. I mean, I guess I'm trying to understand whether this is, is this supposed to be like pressure to get people to act and to make sure we pass farm bills on a timely basis? Is that what this is supposed to be?
Would the gentleman yield? Yeah. Actually, this is more a good faith statement to members that this really is a progressive, forward-moving bill, that we don't need to hold the specter of the price of wheat in 1913 over Congress's head when Farm Bill policy temporarily expires. This is as clear a statement of we are moving to the modern age as can possibly be made philosophically.
Yeah. I worry this is the same principle that went behind sequestration, that if you don't act, that disaster will happen. And I would just remind my colleagues who supported the sequestration that disaster happened. And I would caution that we don't want to go down that same road. Now, Title IV is exempted here. The chairman of the Rules Committee said that we're splitting the bill, but there's no Title IV here. We don't see a Title IV. Mm-hmm. We only see this part of the bill with some changes in it that did not go through committee, but that are being decided here in the Rules Committee. And so for people like me who are concerned about not just SNAP, but there are monies for food banks in Title IV, monies for nutrition for senior citizens. There's a whole bunch of stuff in Title IV. So to not see a Title IV as we're moving forward is a little bit disconcerting, quite frankly. And the reason why it's disconcerting is because I was on the floor not as long as you were during the Farm Bill debate, but I heard that debate. And some of the things I heard, quite frankly, I found offensive. And some of the characterization of people who are on SNAP, some of the characterization of the people who benefit from these programs, I found really alarming. Not by the chairman, but by others on the floor. And, and I looked at that vote when the bill went down, and 62 of your members, mostly some of the more conservative members of your party, voted against the bill. And what I'm trying to figure out here is, what are they getting in order to get them to vote for this bill tomorrow? I mean, there's got to be something here other than just two separate votes. I mean, because if what you're saying to Ranking Member Slaughter is true, is that, this is all conferenceable. If the Senate wants to offer their position of a $4 billion cut, which I don't like either, then that will be discussed. If not, maybe it's the status quo. I mean, I should also tell you, in the Title IV that is not in here, includes some anti-fraud provisions that you added in your committee, which on SNAP, and I support those things. So I got to be honest with you. There's something going on here, and I'm just trying to figure out what it is, because I mean, if in fact there's going to be a second bill coming, I'd like to know what's going to be in it before we move on this tomorrow. And, I want to know what assurances that these 62 members are getting in order to get them to vote for this bill tomorrow.
Gentleman
Yes.
yield. As you observed on the floor a couple weeks ago, there's clearly not a consensus among 218 of our colleagues on how to proceed on the nutrition title. I acknowledge that. Don't let me give the wrong impression that my preference is to address something the Senate's done. My preference is to have a House product that the House of Representatives will pass, and to take that as a vehicle to work with the Senate. That is my preferred route. I could see, though, where, in the nature of the way SNAP law presently works, that there might well be those in the Senate who would say, no action means no reforms or cuts, however you want to word the phrase, so let's not do anything. I think that is a strong possibility. But for the House to use the Senate vehicle, that's probably number 3 on the list in no particular other order otherwise. That's just my observations to my colleague on the committee.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, when would you expect there to be a nutrition bill to be reported out of the Ag Committee? I mean, if this were to move tomorrow and you were to pass it, I mean, would we get it done before the August recess? Would there be?
I can only say to my friend, as soon as I could put a title together that 218 people would vote for, I would come asking the Rules Committee for permission to go to the floor.
And
I don't know whether that's a day, a week, or a month, but I give you my word, I'm going to try.
And if it's a month or 2 months, does that mean that we put the conference on hold while we?
From the perspective of addressing the overall Farm Bill conference, the quicker that second bill is completed and passed, the easier it is to complete the whole process. I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, but the Farm Bill expires on September 30th.
You are correct, sir, and for some of our other friends here's benefit, technically the titles expire at the end of September, but the way the old Farm Bill is structured, the actual sections expire as the crop year comes to an end. Milk is December 31, wheat's next spring, corn after that,
Right.
in the way it dominoes out, so to speak.
Yeah. But again, and again, I'm not questioning your intentions, because I'm not worried as much about you as I am worried about some other members of your conference, quite frankly. And I say that because I've been reading some of the press accounts and some of the quotes that have been coming out in the last day or two. I've heard some members say that that they were looking for a commitment that the nutrition title would not be conferenceable until the House were to act. That there'd be an absolute commitment that you would not, or the members of the conference committee would not want to negotiate with the Senate on something until the House had come up with its own nutrition title. Number one. I also heard others say that they want the SNAP program sunsetted in 5 years as well, and the other nutrition programs. That was by the chairman of the Nutrition Subcommittee on the Agriculture Committee, who's not a very big supporter of this program, but nonetheless an influential member of this committee. And I've heard other quotations. So I'm just trying to figure out, I mean, these 62 people who you're swaying, or who your leadership is swaying, to vote for a bill, by the way, which they not only had objections to the nutrition title, but the Club for Growth and the Heritage Foundation and all the right-wing groups also objected to a lot of the stuff that was in the title that we're talking about here right now. I'm trying to figure out what's persuading these people to all of a sudden vote for a bill tomorrow that they couldn't vote for last week. And I got to believe they're not all. I don't believe they're cheap dates. I'm believing they get something, and I'm trying to figure out what they got.
I would simply say to the ranking member, as a kid who was 6'3" and 165 pounds as a sophomore in high school, I would dance with any girl at the school dance that would dance with me. My policy, when it comes to putting a bill together, is I'll happily take 62 Democrats as well as I'll take 62 Republicans. I just have to work within the body as it exists.
And I would say to the gentleman,
circumstances we are.
If you want
good input,
if you want 62 Democrats, I'm happy to dance with you, and I'm happy to tell you what you need to do to get 62 Democrats or even more. And I think we can get a much better farm bill. I'm just trying to figure out what are these 62 Republicans getting, who had not only strong objections to the nutrition title, but strong objections to a lot of the programs that you and I support in the farm bill. And I'm not privy to your leadership meetings. I mean, people have been promised something, and my biggest fear is, and I'll close with this because it's kind of where the ranking member began. I trust you, and I respect you. I don't agree with you on everything, but I know you're a straight shooter. But given what I heard on the House floor during the farm debate, given some of the comments that I have read in the press, I have to tell you, I don't have a lot of trust in the people that run this place right now, especially with regard to Title IV. And I am deeply worried and I am deeply troubled. And I'm going to tell you, we got 50 million people in this country who are hungry. 17 million are kids. I know the gentleman cares deeply about this stuff, but this is not a game. We're talking about people who will be hurt if we don't get this right. And I want all of us to go into this with our eyes wide open. And we're getting a piece of this here today. There's a big chunk that we don't know about. And so I hope the gentleman will understand when there are some of us on this side of the aisle that are really, really troubled by this process, and especially bringing this kind of newly constructed bill to the floor under a closed rule, of all things. So I thank the gentleman, and it is a pleasure to serve with you on the committee, although I wish I weren't seeing you under these circumstances. Thank you.
thank you, sir.
Gentleman yields the time. Gentleman, young chairman from Oklahoma is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure to see my good friend here tonight. If I may indulge myself for a moment, we've walked a long road together. My friend and I have been friends and political associates for over 30 years. I first met him when he was the OSU College Republican president. I was the executive director of the Oklahoma Republican Party, and he was elected to the State House of Representatives when I had the privilege of being state chairman. We were actually elected the same year, got to serve in the state legislature together. And then he went on to a distinguished career. I was run out pretty fast, but I had the privilege of being his political consultant when he won and worked for him in 1994 in a very remarkable special election. And I've watched with extraordinary pleasure and respect as his career has developed over many, many, many years. And I have as close to absolute trust in his, not just his integrity, I think we all have absolute trust in that, but his political judgment and his skill in farm policy and the politics of passing a farm bill as I would anybody. I mean that. I actually respect my friend's concern and skepticism. I think that's a legitimate thing to express, my friends on the other side of the aisle. But I also think that my friend here is absolutely determined to bring us a product by however long and winding the road may be that not only is a really good product, but in the end, I think it'll be a bipartisan product at the final point. But at this point, my friend has clearly decided that this is the appropriate way to proceed. Now, that's pretty easy for me because I'm not just his friend; I'm his next-door neighbor. And I tell the 15,000 farmers and ranchers that I represent, anytime they ask me about anything agriculture, I'm just going to vote like Lucas votes, and they always burst into applause. So I know the agriculture part of this bill is well crafted, and I also know, though, that my friend is absolutely committed to making sure that nobody in America ever goes hungry, and that we do have obligations in that regard to those among us who are less fortunate. We built programs. I think my friend offered a series of really wise reforms that would preserve, streamline those programs, and at the same time make sure that we met our obligations to, again, those people that needed help. And I know he'll do that in a conference committee as well. And I'm very confident that the product that he returns, if we're fortunate enough to pass this bill, will be one that commands significant bipartisan support at the end of the day. I really do believe, I actually believe this bill should be a bipartisan bill. I've advocated that not only within my conference but publicly. I think we move better when we move them together. That would be my preferred choice, but that didn't work out. My friend gave it absolutely tremendous effort, and I'm not pointing fingers in any direction because I think he does have a wonderful relationship with his ranking member, and I do think that he commands respect on both sides of the aisle. So, sometimes when you're in the huddle, you just trust your quarterback, and he calls the play, and Frank Lucas is a quarterback that I respect enormously. So if he tells us that this is the way to proceed forward, then I'm confident, based on 33 years of friendship and political experience, that it is indeed the best way to proceed forward. So I want to thank you for your hard work. I want to thank you for your patience in a difficult process, for your effort to work genuinely with people on both sides of the aisle in the committee and in the larger process in the House. And I just want to assure my friend I will be with him from the very first vote to the very last vote. And I think if other people on both sides of the aisle approach this with that kind of attitude, they'd be very pleased with the process. That hasn't happened, and that's been a problem on my side of the aisle as well as my friend's side of the aisle. So I'd cast no stones in that regard at all, and I respect my friends on the other side of the aisle who have concerns and skepticism because I think it's heartfelt and quite genuine. But this is it seems to me, and I appreciate your comment on this, Mr. Chairman, this seems to me just a step in a process. And this is the process that we're going, but it's not the final step. This isn't the final bill. And my friend, who all of us have a great deal of confidence, will play an enormous role in shaping the final product, not just in this floor, but in conference and with what conference sends us. So if my friend is comfortable with this process, and that's the only question I'd ask, then that's about all I need to know. So I assume you're confident.
Yes, sir.
All I need to know.
This is the way to proceed.
Okay. Yield back.
Joe, and yields time. Gentleman from Florida, the judge is recognized.
Reference to proceeding, we're down to 68 members, 65 members.
I appreciate the gentleman asking if I think you have a lot to say about that. If you are not going to consume any time, perhaps we can move directly through. If you are going to, then the gentleman. Well, that's my point, Mr. Chairman.
I don't want to be rushed, and I don't believe Mr. Woodall does either. So toward that end, I don't know what your prerogative is, but I'm here on the basis of this emergency, and I don't have anything else to do but to be here. But if you say proceed, then I shall.
I would submit to the gentleman that if he intends to offer a filibuster, it would be great if
Mine
he
is
could tell
not a
me.
filibuster.
Then the
I have a
gentleman's
need to
recognized.
vote for a farm bill, Mr.
Gentleman's
Chairman.
recognized.
Yeah, as do other members on this committee. I would like very much to be able to vote for a farm bill. I voted for every one until this one that had difficulties. And like all of you that have expressed it, let me share in my belief that we have no finer persons representing us than the chairman and the ranking member with reference to farm policy in this House of Representatives. And I, too, have great respect for Frank Lucas and would not dare to question his integrity. All of my conversations with him have been straightforward. And not only have I voted for farm bills, I have been a leader in causing farm bills to pass. Therefore, I find myself in serious conflict with the process. And I would ask the chair and yield to him after this question, while it is evidently true that Title IV is not here, and it's the understanding as I listen to you that the Senate can offer it. I dare not get into the weeds of the arcane methodology that the Senate employs. But my understanding is, based on conversations today, that the chair of the committee in the Senate has indicated that the measure passed the committee on a voice vote, and that the Senate will not offer in conference a matter that came out as a voice vote. Now, I don't know that that's true or not. I don't know whether the chair said that. I'm telling you what I heard, and if that is true, then the risk that those of us that want to support this measure and do in fact support measures having to do with nutrition, the risk is too great, even for me. So do you know anything at all about that process that your counterpart in the Senate may have indicated that's taking place?
If the gentleman would yield.
Certainly yield.
I would have to say this is the first time I'm aware of this set of comments. I will have to do my research. I just simply don't know how to respond.
I think we should know, and before we vote on this tomorrow, I think we should. Is there any particular reason, Mr. Chairman, why both measures could not have been presented tonight? If we perceive emergencies, then quite frankly, I perceive hunger in this nation as a greater emergency than satisfying even those that I represent in the farm and ranch industry.
I would simply say to the gentleman that the Farm Bill portion of the Farm Bill achieved consensus first. The challenges that I have within my own conference, let alone within the entire House, of achieving consensus are even more complicated than the Farm Bill section of the Farm Bill. And this is an effort that continues in earnest, but it's just not solvable yet in this short time frame.
I understand. And disagreeing only in the metaphor with my good friend, your colleague and good friend, and ours as well from Oklahoma. The metaphor he used is sometimes you just have to have the quarterback who calls the plays go ahead and make the call. If you were the quarterback, I'd be satisfied. But sometimes the plays are sent in and the headphones downstairs, and therein lies the problem. I'll leave it at that, Mr. Chairman, and I don't need a response.
I apologize, I'm sorry. Did the gentleman yield his time?
Yes, he
Yes.
Thank you.
Now you're back now.
Yeah, thank you very much. I apologize.
I have a lot more I want to say.
Well, and I appreciate that. At this time, what I'd like to announce is that we're going to be adjourned subject to call the chair. I'd like to ask the gentleman from Oklahoma if he would come back and please present himself before the committee. We'll resume and attempt to get this done. Committee will be in recess until the last vote at the end of the last vote. Come on, one order, and thank you very much for coming back after the vote. We want to go ahead and resume. We appreciate the gentleman, the chairman of the committee, the gentleman, Mr. Lucas, for coming back, and thank you very much. Gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Woodall, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was proud to support your effort last time, Chairman Lucas, not because I loved everything that was in the bill, not because I have a big agricultural district, but because I thought you were moving the ball in the right direction, did the best you could with what you had to work with, and if we can't get on board when we're doing that, I don't know what we can get on board with. I did want to ask you, folks were talking to me on the floor, my attestation was this is the same language that I voted for last time, before we left for 4th of July, but they gave me some language, sugar program in particular, and said, no, actually the language has changed between the time you voted on it last and the time we vote on it tomorrow. Do you?
Would the gentleman yield?
I'd be happy to yield.
Clearly, there are those in the hallways who are very concerned about the sugar program and have some very intense feelings. I understand that completely. But when I asked the committee to draft the language, I asked them to replace the 49 law in the draft with, which is permanent, by making the 2013 law permanent. That's my understanding of the way it would work. Now, in 5 years' time, as has been the custom of the United States House at least since 1996, we pass a new farm bill. At that point in time, if my colleagues choose to change the policy, they can. But I would say in this particular case, that language was ratified on the floor of the House when an amendment to take it out was defeated.
It does not surprise me at all that you didn't have to refer to anybody to find out the answer to that, but the chairman knows the answer to that. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to yield back. Impressed and
Thank you very much, gentleman. Yields back his time. Gentleman from Colorado is recognized. Gentleman has no question. Gentleman from Florida is recognized. Gentleman yields his time. Gentleman, Mr. Webster is recognized. No questions. Dr. Burgess is recognized.
I do want to thank the chairman for being here, and Mr. Chairman, just for what it's worth, I'm one of those who actually thought the separation of these two titles was a worthwhile endeavor. So I am absolutely okay with seeing it come back in this fashion. I believe, as you do, that the nutrition title of the Farm Bill that existed before is some of that spending that's on autopilot, it's automatic spending. The farm policy is what needed to be reauthorized. The spending under the nutrition title will continue unabated. I do think we need to make some improvements to the nutrition title, and I'm prepared to do that. But for right now, it's important to get the farm policy part done. So I'm absolutely okay with what you've done here this evening, and I'll yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back his time. Gentleman seek to clarify. The gentleman does not seek time. Gentlewoman from New York will be recognized if she chooses to submit SAP. Perhaps the gentlewoman will wish to do that. Gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you. It's short, and let me just quote from it a little bit. I ask unanimous consent
Without
for the record. The administration strongly opposes H.R. 6242 because the 608-page bill was made available only this evening. The administration has had inadequate time to fully review the text of the bill. It's apparent, though, the bill does not contain sufficient commodity and crop insurance reforms and does not invest in renewable energy, an important source of jobs and economic growth in rural communities across the country. Legislation as important as the Farm Bill should be constructed in a comprehensive approach that helps to strengthen all aspects of the nation. This bill also fails to reauthorize nutrition programs which benefit millions of Americans in rural, suburban, and urban areas alike. It is the cornerstone of the nation's food assistance safety net and should not be left behind as the rest of the Farm Bill advances. And if the President were presented with this bill, his advisors would recommend a veto. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the feedback from the gentleman with the SAP from the White House. This chairman is satisfied that the testimony that's been given by the gentleman, the chairman of the committee, has satisfied me as a member of Congress and certainly a testimony for this committee that the gentleman does intend to make sure and has satisfied at least me, and I believe the committee, about what is in the bill, about what would be available to a conference committee, and his desire to make sure that each of those attributes, up to and including the provisions for food stamps, would be available to the committee on a conference basis and could bring that back. I agree with the gentleman from Texas, the gentleman, Mr. Burgess, Dr. Burgess, that I'm in favor of bringing that back. I'm in favor of us moving that other piece part. So it's my hope that what we see here is a chance for the House of Representatives to work its will on this part of the Farm Bill to pass this, to get us in a position where we're able to go to conference. And I think the gentleman has done an awesome job on behalf of the committee and my conference. And I want to thank the gentleman. Seeing no further need for the gentleman to be here, the gentleman is excused, and I appreciate him very much. Chairman will now be in receipt of a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move the committee grant H.R. 2642, the Federal Agriculture Reform and Risk Management Act of 2013, a closed rule. The rule provides 1 hour debate, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Agriculture. The rule waives all points of order against consideration of the bill. The rule provides that the bill shall be considered as read. The rule waives all points of order against provisions of the bill. Finally, the rule provides one motion to recommit.
You've now heard the motion from the gentlewoman from North Carolina, Vice Chairman of the Rules Committee. Is there any discussion or amendment on the...
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman's recognized.
I have an amendment to the rule. I move the committee grant H.R. 2642, an open rule so that all members have the opportunity to offer amendments to the bill on the floor. And I'd like to address that, Mr. Chairman.
Gentlewoman's recognized.
A closed rule on a partisan farm bill and cutting the nutrition entirely is a sharp break with the decades of bipartisan urban-rural cooperation. Over 20 conservative groups wrote in a letter to Republican leadership this week, quote, "We urge you to live up to your commitments to robust debate by ensuring that any agriculture or nutrition bill is considered in an open process. A closed rule on farm legislation would run counter to those commitments and produce bad policy," end quote. Let's not do this. Please don't break the decades-long tradition of bipartisan and cross-regional teamwork on agricultural policy, because it is a real tragedy. I urge my colleagues, all of us, in the strongest possible terms, to please support my motion for an open rule.
I thank the gentleman for her amendment, and I would say with great appreciation and respect to her that the committee did report out a rule that not only was full of robust debate, but found itself in a position to where we were not able to pass the bill. It is a difficult task, seemingly nowadays, in the position that we're all in. And so I have great respect for the gentlewoman encouraging as open a process, one that is robust and one which finds the will of the House. That's what we're still attempting to do here tonight, and I appreciate the gentlewoman for bringing that up. With that said, I'm not in support of the gentlewoman's amendment. Is there further discussion? Gentleman's recognized.
Mr. Chair, I would just, in support of the gentlelady's amendment, point out that this is not the same bill that we reported, that was voted on a couple of weeks ago. That there's some important changes in this bill, in addition to the fact that the nutrition part of it has just been totally cut out. I mean, this repeals basically the 1949 Act, and I don't think anybody has any idea what that means. There's been no hearing on it. There's been no debate on it. We're just kind of winging it as we go along here. In addition, I would just say to the gentleman, Mr. Burgess, we don't know what the impact on SNAP could potentially be by this particular House of Representatives if it is not reauthorized. We have no assurances on anything. So there's a great deal of concern on that as well. So I think that, in the spirit of Speaker Boehner's pledge for a more open and transparent process, we ought to support the gentlelady's amendment. I thank the gentleman for yielding.
Appreciate the discussion that the committee is having, and with great respect to the Speaker of the House, I believe he is attempting to make sure in his not only role as Speaker, but also of his some 16 or 18 years of his service to the Agriculture Committee, I believe, his clear understanding of the importance of not only farm policy, but also nutrition as it relates to Americans, families, women and children. And I believe the Speaker forthrightly in the discussions that I have had, which have been numerous, that he's attempting to achieve that at this time. Further discussion. Seeing no discussion, the vote will now be on the amendment by the gentlewoman from New York. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Noes have it. Noes have it. Roll call.
Ms. Fox. No. Ms. Fox, no. Mr. Bishop. Mr. Bishop, no. Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole, no. Mr. Woodall. Mr. Woodall, no. Mr. Nugent. Mr. Nugent, no. Mr. Webster. Mr. Webster, no. Ms. Ross-Leitman. No. Ms. Ross-Leitman, no. Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess, no. Ms. Slaughter. Yes. Ms. Slaughter, aye. Mr. McGovern. Mr. McGovern, aye. Mr. Hastings. Mr. Hastings, aye. Mr. Polis. Aye. Mr. Polis, aye. Mr. Chairman.
No.
Mr. Chairman, no.
Clerk report.
4 yeas, 9 nays.
Motion's not agreed to. The amendment's not agreed to. Not agreed to. Further amendment or debate discussion. Seeing none at this time, the Vote will now be on the motion from the gentlewoman, Vice Chairman of the Committee from North Carolina. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Roll call.
Ms. Fox? Aye. Ms. Fox? Aye. Mr. Bishop? Mr. Bishop? Aye. Mr. Cole? Mr. Cole? Aye. Mr. Woodall? Mr. Woodall? Aye. Mr. Nugent? Aye. Mr. Nugent? Aye. Mr. Webster? Mr. Webster? Aye. Ms. Ross-Leighton? Aye. Ms. Ross-Leighton? Aye. Mr. Burgess? Mr. Burgess? Aye. Ms. Slaughter? Ms. Slaughter? No. Mr. McGovern? Mr. McGovern? No. Mr. Hastings? Mr. Hastings? No. Mr. Polis? Mr. Polis? No. Mr. Chairman?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman? Aye.
Clerk will report.
9 yeas, 4 nays.
The motion is agreed to, and I thank the gentlewoman from North Carolina. We will be having this debate tomorrow. I will be the manager for the Republicans.
Mr. McGovern for the minority.
And the gentleman, Mr. McGovern, will represent the minority. We do not anticipate at this time any further meetings of the Rules Committee for this further in the week. I know that comes as, well, you know, there was a huge discussion about pizza, but if I want to thank each of you, and once again, I would like to offer my thanks to each of the members of the committee, not only for being here in full debate, meeting our colleagues as they come to testify, but also to like to thank the staff. The staff has spent a great deal of time, not only on this issue, but they have served us both well, not only you and I as in our positions, but also this committee. And I thank you very, very much. We have now completed our work for the week. Thank you.